A tall, garnet-colored building in the New England style, the Belsey residence roams over 4 creaky floors. The date of its construction, 1856, is patterned in tile above the front door, and the windows retain their mottled green glass, spreading a dreamy pasture on the floorboards whenever strong light passes through them. They are not original, these windows, but replacements, the originals being too precious to be used as windows. Heavily insured, they are kept in a large safe in the basement. A significant portion of the value of the Belsey house resides in windows that nobody may look through or open. The sole original window is the skylight at the very top of the house, a harlequin pane that casts a disk of varicolored light upon different spots on the upper landing as the sun passes over America, turning a white shirt pink as one passes through it, for example, or a yellow tie blue. Once the spot reaches the floor in mid-morning, it is a family superstition never to step through it. 10 years earlier, you would have found children here wrestling, trying to force each other into its orbit. Even now, as young adults, they continue to step round it on their way down the stairs. The staircase itself is a steep spiral. To pass the time while descending it, a photographic Belsey family gallery has been hung on the walls, following each turn that you make. The children come first in black and white, podgy and dimpled, haloed with curls. They seem always to be tumbling towards the viewer and over each other, folding on their sausage legs. Frowning Jerome holding baby Zora, wondering what she is. Zora cradling tiny wrinkled Levi with the crazed proprietorial look of a woman who steals children from hospital wards. School portraits, graduations, swimming pools, restaurants, gardens, and vacation shots follow, monitoring physical development, confirming character. After the children come 4 generations of the Simons' maternal line. These are placed in triumphant, deliberate sequence. Kiki's great-great-grandmother, a house slave, great-grandmother, a maid, and then her grandmother, a nurse. It was Nurse Lily who inherited this whole house from a benevolent white doctor with whom she had worked closely for 20 years back in Florida. An inheritance this scale changes everything for a poor family in America. It makes them middle class. And 83 Langham is a fine middle-class house, larger even than it looks on the outside, with a small pool out back, unheated and missing many of its white tiles, like a British smile. Indeed, much of the house is now a little shabby, but this is part of its grandeur. There is nothing nouveau riche about it. The house is ennobled by the work it has done for this family. The rental of the house paid for Kiki's mother's education. A legal clerk, she died this spring past, and for Kiki's own. For years, it was the Simons' nest egg and vacation home. They would come up each September from Florida to see the color. Once her children had grown, and after her minister husband had died, Howard's mother-in-law, Claudia Simons, moved into the house permanently and lived happily as landlady to cycles of students who rented the spare rooms. Throughout these years, Howard coveted the house. Claudia, acutely aware of this covetousness, determined to pervert its course. She knew well that the place was perfect for Howard, large, lovely, and within spitting distance of a half-decent American university that might consider hiring him. It gave Mrs. Simons joy, or so Howard believed, to make him wait all those years. She tripped happily into her 70s without any serious health problems. Meanwhile, Howard shunted his young family around various second-rate seats of learning. 6 years in upstate New York. 11 in London, 1 in the suburbs of Paris. It was only 10 years ago that Claudia had finally relented, leaving the property in favor of a retirement community in Florida. It was around this time that the gallery photograph of Kiki herself, a hospital administrator and final inheritor of 83 Langham Drive, was taken. In the photo, she is all teeth and hair, receiving a state award for outreach services to the local community. A rogue white arm clinches what was, back then, an extremely neat waist in tight denim. This arm, cut off at the elbow, is Howard's. When people get married, there is often a battle to see which family, the husband's or the wife's, will prevail. Howard has lost that battle, happily. The Belzies, petty, cheap, and cruel, are not a family anyone would fight to retain. And because Howard has conceded willingly, it was easy for Kiki to be gracious. And so here, on the first landing, we have a large representation of one of the English Belzies. A charcoal portrait of Howard's own father, Harold, hanging as high up the wall as is decent, wearing his flat cap. His eyes are cast downward, as if in despair at the exotic manner in which Howard has chosen to continue the Belzie line. Howard himself was surprised to discover the picture, surely the only artwork the Belzie family had ever owned. Among the small bundle of worthless bric-a-brac that came his way upon his mother's death. In the years that followed, the picture has lifted itself out of its low origins, like Howard himself. Many educated upscale Americans of the Belzies' acquaintances claim to admire it. It is considered classy, mysterious, and redolent in some mystifying way of the English character. In Kiki's opinion, it is an item the children will appreciate when they get older, an argument that ingeniously bypasses the fact that the children are already older and do not appreciate it. Howard himself hates it, as he hates all representational painting and his father. After Harold Belzie follows a jolly parade of Howard himself in his 70s, 80s, and 90s incarnations. Despite costume changes, the significant features remain largely unchanged by the years. His teeth, uniquely in his family, are straight and of a similar size to each other. His bottom lip's fullness goes some way towards compensating for the absence of the upper. And his ears are not noticeable, which is all one can ask of ears. He has no chin, but his eyes are very large and very green. He has a thin, appealing, aristocratic nose. When placed next to men of his own age and class, he has two great advantages: hair and weight. Both have changed little. The hair in particular is extremely full and healthy. A gray patch streams from his right temple. Just this fall, he decided to throw the lot of it violently forward onto his face, as he had not done since 1967. A great success. A large photo of Howard, towering over other members of the humanities faculty as they arrange themselves tidily around Nelson Mandela, shows this off to some effect. He has easily the most hair of any fellow there. The pictures of Howard multiply as we near the ground. Howard in Bermuda shorts with shocking white, waxy knees. Howard in academic tweed under a tree dappled by the Massachusetts light. Howard in a great hall, newly appointed Epsom lecturer in aesthetics, in a baseball cap pointing at Emily Dickinson's house, in a beret, for no good reason, in a day-glow jumpsuit in Eatonville, Florida, with Kiki beside him, shielding her eyes from either Howard or the sun or the camera.